Are you overwhelmed by paperwork and binders? It doesn't have to be that complicated. Stay tuned to find out how to make your life a little bit easier. The minimum standards are not the same in every state, but every state does have a minimum standards for childcare that needs to be made available to parents at all times. Then, in my other binder is the other information which I'm required by the state of Texas to provide to my parents, such as my handbook, menus, and those kind of things. So let's sit down and I'll show you through some of my binders and how to make your paperwork a little bit less cluttered, more organized, and make life a lot easier for you. All right, so we're gonna take a look inside. That's my 2-year-old. So we're gonna take a look inside of our parent binder. So this is what's available to my parents at all times. This is the schedule. Our schedule is going to change as we are opening this next week. We're starting, and as we try our schedule, I will adjust it to fit the needs of our class and the kids. And then once I have a final copy, it'll go in a page protector. I have my parent handbook. The state of Texas requires you to have 3 weeks of menus. 3 months of menus available to your parents. Toddler life, guys, it's so hard. Such a hard life. But because we are just opening next week, there's nothing available at this time. At the end of each month, I'll put my menu in here, and honestly, I probably will just keep the menus in there until I run out of space. In the state of Texas, we're required to have the immunization schedule for parents. I like Dr. Sears' alternative schedule, so I have that available, which is not required. That's just I like to give parents options. And then this right here is the immunization schedule from the CDC, and it is the 2019. And so one thing you'll have to do is make sure every year you go in and update all of your paperwork. On our next tab is product safety consumer. So in the state of Texas, this is a paper you fill out, and it just tells your parents that I do go to the National Product Recall website on a weekly basis and look over it to make sure that none of my toys that I have in my facility have been recalled for safety reasons. Then you will have an emergency plan. So in my emergency plan, which is also part of my handbook, but this is the more detailed version for my parents. This is actually a layout of my home, and it shows where my fire extinguisher is, our evacuation routes. We have to have evacuations in 2 different parts of my house. You have to have a minimum of 2 ways to get out. And then it shows where my first aid and fire extinguisher are. This is a written out plan for different types of evacuations. So if we have to evacuate and relocate, this tells the procedure as to how we will evacuate, and then it gives 2 different locations. Location 1 with the address, and if location 1 is not available, location 2 where the children will be located to. Down here goes into more detail about how we would evacuate and what would be brought with us, such as your safety, your emergency evacuation bag, your first aid kit, those types of things. Over here is fire, toxic fumes, and explosions. So this has the procedures we would do for evacuating the house, but not evacuating the neighborhood. Down here, tornado and severe weather drill. This explains where we would go and what procedures we would follow if there's bad weather in the area. Down here is flooding. If we were, for some reason, heaven forbid, to have a flood in my area, this is how I would get the children out of the area safe. This is a dangerous person's plan. I used to work for a local school district, and so we've always just called them lockdown drills. You lock down, you're quiet, you hide. This is my procedure for a lockdown drill for my children in care, and how we would ensure their safety. So I am an Osborne Book and More consultant. I absolutely love, love, love providing literature to my kids. A literature-rich environment makes the world a difference. And so I have a tab here for my parents where it will have order forms where they can order books throughout the year as they wish to. I also offer book fairs for other preschools and fundraising. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a message. Let's get your school some free books. My next tab says Other. There is so much information out there for parents that are useful. So this is some, I ran out of sheet protectors. This is some stuff that I'm putting in the back because I think they're cute and it's stuff I can make copies of throughout the year and send home. So do y'all guys remember the yuck face for poison control? It was like a lime green yuck face. Well, that's no longer what poison control uses. They use this little guy. Let's see, what is his name? I will tell you his name in a minute. This right here is the activity guide for the teachers. This one is the activity guide for parents. And this is introducing him. His name is, I don't see his name, friends. Spike. Spike's Poison Prevention Adventure. So, Spike's quills go up or his quills go down. This kind of introduces the kids to poison control. So I printed this stuff while I found it. That way I can use this later on in the year as we talk about different things like that. I'll also have extra printables in a sheet protector so my parents can have them, as well as have it printed out for them. I like to have different resources available. So if you're familiar or not familiar with NAEYC, it stands for the National Organization for the Education of Children. It's a long term. But they are an amazing organization that does a lot of work. So one of the things I like to provide to my parents is a resource library. They will have copy to all the NAEYC magazines and resources I get on a monthly basis. They will have access to any of my education and parenting handbooks that they can check out. And they will have access to any of the awesome, amazing blogs that NAEYC puts out on the website. Those will be shared on my Facebook page. So those are some things to think about. Providing education for your parents is just as important as providing education for yourself. Because when you come down to it, these kids are in your care. It's a village. It takes a whole village to raise a little kid. Now we're gonna go on to what I like to call my one and done binder. So you may have seen a little sneak peek of this when my trainer came over and did her video of my pre-inspection. So let's dive into this just a little bit more. Like I said, paperwork doesn't have to be scary and tedious. There's ways to get it done without 10 million binders and folders. So let's dive into the one and done binder. All right, guys, so like I said, this is my one and done binder. I decided instead of having tons of different folders and paperwork everywhere, I would put it in one place. If there's an evacuation, this is the binder I grab. If I have an inspector come, this has almost everything she needs in it, along with my handbook or my parent information binder and my minimum standards. So let's take a look at how I organized it. So to start off with, I've got in front a medication authorization form. I do not do over-the-counter medicines for my parents unless it is an absolute emergency. I do have my parents, if they choose to, sign a form stating that if their child goes into anaphylactic shock, that I can give them Benadryl as we are waiting on an ambulance. That's because with little kids, you don't always know what they're allergic to. Also, if I have kids that have asthma, diabetes, and need nebulizers or inhalers, I would also need to fill out this form. So it's here in case I need it. All right, so my first tab is staff. These right here is a checklist of all the different things that your inspector will look for. This is form 7271. This is a great one to print out, guys. It's a great way to check to make sure that you have everything you need. All right, so for my staff, I have myself. I will be hiring an assistant. I have my husband, who is a household member, which would be anybody over the age of 14. And then I have a substitute that will come over as needed. And maybe in the long term, I'll have another sub. You never know. So what I do is I just see number one. I'm number one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Makes it easy. All the license inspector has to do is pop in and say, oh, number one, she's got that form done. Oh, there's her driver's license. There's her first aid. There we go. Oh, there's her college stuff. And then background check, credentials, those types of things. And then, of course, for a director, you will have more things than you do for everybody else, including all of the trainings. So there we go, guys. All they have to do is flip through, and they are all labeled with the 1, so you know who they belong to. Number 2, an assistant. Same thing. Here's the form I will have an assistant fill out. And this one right here will be their background check in high school diploma or some type of degree. And then their training will be after that. So that's number 2. Number 3, a substitute. Number 4, a substitute. Number 5, household member, which is my husband. Then we move on to the tab that says kids. I did the same thing with my kids. Instead of writing Jack, Susan, Mary, Bob, I numbered them because let's be honest, your kids, if they're 4, are only going to be with you 1 year. Do you really want to take this entire page, reprint it, and redo it every year? No, that's a whole lot of work for no reason. So my kids are labeled with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. That way the inspector can go through her checklist and say, does child number 1 have this, this, and this? Well, they sure do. And I made it easy by putting them in tabs. So, as you can see right now, there's no forms in here because my students are bringing their paperwork with them the first day of school. So here is their registration form. You can make your own registration form and all pretty and fancy. However, I use the form that the state provides. That way I know everything is there for inspection. So this will be their registration form. The back will be their discipline and guidance policy. I will have their shot record, and I will have their physician's health statement. For each child, you will also see a tab that says reports. So this is reports for this child. Any accident reports, any type of communication log that I have with the parent will be in the binder with this. That way, everything is together for that child. And again, child number 2, registration, child number 2, child number 2, accident reports, and parent communication logs. I think you get the idea. So I did 1 through 16. I am licensed for up to 12 kids. But if I have a child who is part-time, then they're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I have another student here Tuesday, Thursday, then I need an extra slot. So I went ahead and gave myself up to 16 in my book. That way my part-time students, I would have all their information. Because let's face it, they're not all going to be here at the same time. Whoops. All right, so in the very back of my binder, I put all of my reports so I know where everything is when I need it. These are OWI reports. So this one is a simple form where it just says, ouch, I got hurt, I fell, I bumped my head, whatever. Anytime a child gets hurt, you need to report it, whether it leaves a mark or not. Parents want to know, and it's the right thing to do. This form right here is a little bit longer, and it just gives me more space to provide more details. If it was a little more than a fall, or if there was more to it, and I need to write more, this one allows me to do that. Parents were notified by blank. If a child ever hits their head, no matter how small you think it is, please report it. Children can have brain swelling and can pass away in their sleep, and you would never know if the parents are not aware that they hit their head and they may need to go see a doctor. There is also, in the state of Texas, if a child gets seriously injured and it's required to go to a dentist, maybe they fell and a tooth got chipped, or if they fell and broke an arm, then there is a separate report I would do. This is State Form 7239. This would be filled out, and I would send this to my inspector, as well as call the hotline to report to what's called a self-report, to let them know that we had an injury in our care. And here are my late notice forms. So in my facility, you get 3 late notices and then your child is dismissed. This is a really nice little note that just says, oops, you have a late fee. There you go. Then you put in what they owe plus their late fee. That's their first notice. For my preschool, tuition is due the Friday before care. So if they came in Monday and tuition hasn't been paid, this is what would be sent home. Tuesday, if they still have not paid, again, the total due plus your late fees, just a friendly reminder, so we're getting a little more serious here. All right, and last but not least, the not so nice. At this point, I would give you a notice, and if your tuition does not come the next day, your child would be dismissed from the program. This is a parent communication log. There's so many ways to do this. Whether you keep a notebook, you have something cute, it doesn't matter. But you need to have some kind of way to document your communication with your parents and keep it on file. If little Jimmy fell and busted his knee riding his bike last night, that's something you need to ask parents to tell you. When they come in the morning and you do the health check and just kind of look them over, you can say, oh, Mom, what happened? And she could say, oh, well, he fell on his bike. Write it down, you and Mom both sign. And vice versa. Hey, Jim fell on the playground today. He's got a bruise. Here's his accident report. Great, let's document that. That way, if an inspector comes in and says, oh my, that kid has scrapes and bruises, what happened? You can show them what happened, because if you say, I don't know, they just came that way, in some cases, they will open up a CPS case when it's not even necessary. Super important. And there's my state reports. So like I said, everything in one place. It doesn't have to be hard. Between 3 binders, I have all of the things I need. So my one and done binder, which I grabbed during emergencies, and this is actually on the wall right above my emergency evacuation bag. My parent information binder, which is on a shelf where my parents can get to it next to my minimum standards. My minimum standards binder, and then I have one more binder where I keep a log of all tuition payments, which at some point we can do a video on as well. So like I said, paperwork doesn't have to be daunting and overwhelming and all over the place. Just follow the KISS method. Keep it simple, sweetie. Or at least that's what we say here in the South. So I hope this information was useful to you. Let me know what other kind of videos you'd like to see. And thanks for subscribing to my channel and tuning in. I'll see you guys later.